Alrighty. Testing, testing, testing. It has been a long time. My goodness. It feels good to be back. Alrighty, and we are back online. We've got quite a few videos lined up today. We've got some free spaces for you all, and this is just before I start up with the rest of our videos that are coming for the evening. I do have other stuff that I have kind of made. It's not quite finished, but it's getting there, and it's coming in for you guys now. So, as usual, welcome to the stream. If you haven't been here before, we give about a 10-minute period of time for folks to get in, where it's just me hanging out waiting for whoever ends up showing up first. So, for the videos that we have queued up today, we have the Astra Militarum video that came out recently as an ad for a cinematic. Then we have the Horus Heresy New Edition cinematic that came out that we have to look at, because that one is also new and quite controversial. Some people got hella disagreements about that one, which is reasonable. It can be disagreeable at times. I have an Enemy Within Deathwatch vignette. I think that's from the beginning of Space Marine 2, though I'm not 100% sure. Little Age of Sigmar, for those of you who are fans of the Warhammer Fantasy. I wish that they were more actual materials for OG Fantasy, but we kind of have to make do with what we have. And then there was the Arbites class reveal for Warhammer 40k Darktide. So we're going to take about 10 minutes here, and oh, is there an option to see this better? No, it's just rough how it is. Unfortunate, unfortunate. But we're gonna have to do it like this. Can I full screen? No, I cannot full screen. That does not work. I need to be able to see my chat. Oh man, the streamer's life, am I right? Not that I stream often, but it's enough time for most folks. And hopefully it's good enough for most people. I don't intend for this to become like a streaming channel, but it's been enough time and enough days that I kind of feel like I should probably stream. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I know that I haven't come back, and I've uploaded a bunch of videos and done a couple of votes, but I haven't actually done a contact stream with the channel folks in, I think, almost a month now. It's been several weeks, because I took a bit of a break there, because I was doing like one stream a day for a couple of days, doing artwork and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a really long time, couple of day breaks since that occurred. Either way, we got about 10 minutes here sitting in before people start coming in, I have a feeling. Please, this is a new setup, so you're going to have to let me know if there's any latency or issues with the stream initially, because let's check if my audio is working. Yep, my audio is working just fine.
Day one.
Yeah, Vigilus Day 1. Good. Good image. Honestly, this whole animatic I like a lot, because it's got some wild stuff in it. It's kind of GW pushing a lot of different material in front of you and then hoping that you don't really think that hard about it. But I don't know. These troopers, these pretty obviously Imperial Guardsmen, they're a little bit odd, and we'll talk about why. Not only is the blue a little bit abnormal, because generally we think of the Imperial Guard as having a lot more camouflage unless they have a specific reason not to. Hey, welcome back. Glad to see you while we work. But the other thing is that this is clearly like a regiment of infantry, regular line infantry, and then a regiment of armor, because these are Rogel Dorn tanks. And I don't know, I find it a little bit odd that their color is blue. I also noticed that they have the grenades on their shoulder markers, which might indicate that they're grenadiers. However, I can't see any specialty weapons amongst them all that easily, so either they're grenadiers or maybe they're a certain regiment that specializes in them. That'd be the only reason I can imagine as to why they have, like, essentially a fragmentation grenade. Or maybe that's supposed to be a flash grenade because it's a tube type on their shoulders. But yeah, that blue coloration is just a little bit odd to me, for sure. They have kind of unique helmets as well. Much more reticent of what I would imagine a PDF wearing, outside of having the face coverings and the rebreathers, which are definitely a little bit more common for the Imperial Guard to have, as opposed to Planetary Defense Forces. Now, the first time that I saw this, I thought they were PDF troops, and that's because of the gun that they're holding. I was like, oh, straight stocked weapon with a barrel that's entirely steel, and I was like, oh, so that's just a auto gun of some type. And then I took a second look at it. This is a lock pattern las gun. Now, The lock pattern lasgun is actually one of my absolute favorites for a couple of reasons. One, the lock is relatively cheap, which means that you can field a whole bunch of people who have them on the same battlefield, and it's pretty easy to do. You can equip guardsmen who are not really all that expensive to maintain, which, again, it's another question I have about, like, if these guys are using a cheaper form of lasgun, what are they doing in exchange for it? Did they get universal grenades or something like that? Or it might just be a stylistic choice. But I really like this because the lock very rarely gets any play, and almost never do people like go out of their way to be like, oh, let me put a lock lasgun in a cinematic, because it doesn't look like a normal lasgun. The main difference between it and a normal lasgun you can see right here and right here, it doesn't have a pistol grip. You hold it from the stock, and it's a straight line stock out from the action. So it is a lasgun, and it's a fairly normal, like, Type 2 using lasgun, but it has no pistol grip. Unlike almost every single other lasgun, I think actually every single lasgun has a pistol grip, except for the lock, which is, yeah, it's really nice. It's like an old-fashioned rifle design, but turned into a lasgun.
I deploy our first regiment.
Okay, so again, it also implies, again, one regiment, our first regiment. I'm not sure how you can have a regiment with this many infantry that also includes an entire company of tanks, basically. Actually, for the Rogel Dorn, if this is supposed to be 6 tanks, this is probably 2 separate companies. But either way, all of this being one regiment, I'm not sure... Oh, Lucius doesn't have one as well? Oh yeah, the Lucius 98. But yeah, sorry, apart from the Lucius 98, this is the only other one that doesn't have a pistol grip. And I like it a lot because I'm not a huge fan of the Lucius, because of that whole limitation with being semi-automatic, and also relatively slow firing compared to other lasguns. But yeah, the idea that this is just one regiment's a little bit odd to me, but these guys might be a named regiment that I just don't know about, or they might be a trusted regiment, or what I think is a little bit more likely is that this is a mix of regiments and regimental attachés.
Morale is high.
Yeah, morale would be high before you get shot at. Also, let me just say, that's some impressive damage considering that this dude is wearing full flak. So, these are against orcs, so that's just pretty regular firepower. Oh wait, no, sorry, it's CSM. My bad. It goes into orcs later. So, let me just also say, just for a second. Oh, shoot. I am fucking up Royal. Back.
New command.
Yep.
Vigilant. Day 1.
So, just to be clear, they're ADSing, they're all the way down the line. These tanks are elevated for combat. You can see these ones are angled up about 10 degrees. Clearly prepping to hit somebody in the 1,000+ meter range zone.
I deploy our first regiment.
And then these two dipshits are standing in what is pretty obviously the line of fire.
Morale is high.
As that happens. So again, see how far it pans? They're basically like 30 meters away. So they're engaging the Marines at basically 30 meters. Unless these guys literally came out of the ground, they should have been firing at them way before this. Now, the natural reaction to that is, well, why wouldn't they, why do they need to engage at further range? The lasgun can't penetrate power arm anyway. Well, the reason is so that the Marines don't get this close, because the lasgun outranges the bolt gun by a significant amount. And while it might not penetrate the armor, the chance of hitting a weak spot or managing to damage a weapon or an eye lens or something is pretty worth it, because at this point, let's be honest, you have 100 rounds in your lasgun on average, and that means that you probably aren't going to be getting off all 100 rounds, considering how few Chaos Space Marines there tend to be. These do look like Black Legionaries to me. The brass trim, black armor, and yeah, these are definitely Black Legion, Eye of Horus. I am not a big fan of how they always use the quote-unquote sculpt correct animated figures. So for example, they put the kind of back joints and the ball joints for the heat dispersal very high. They use the same type of horned helmets that you get in CSM kits. It makes the CSM, in my opinion, look way too uniform, and it also makes some of them look very, very silly. So, for example, a lot of the kit versions will have a bunch of models with horns, or a bunch of models with epaulette horns, or something like that, and then they'll just have one poor slick-sided bastard who's in, like, Mark IV to Mark VI armor. And it's like, Wow, imagine being the dude who doesn't have any ornamentation on his helmet. How cringe must you be?
but could always improve. Day 7. We join forces with the Adeptus.
So, yeah. So, like I said, these are Grenadiers. So it says Vresh Grenadiers. Let me look up the planet of Vresh real quick. So it's Vresh Grenadiers, looks like a couple of regiments. And then a couple of regiments. Vresh 40k. Just checking, I gotta make sure that I'm not talking some shit. Okay, yeah, so they are a legit regiment. There we go, good to know. And the blue is normal for them. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Worn out tech slums of Vresh, strong violent gang culture, flak armor fashioned from metal scrap, armor given their regimental markings on their breastplates, War of the Beast on Vigilance. So that's what this is in reference to. It's the War of the Beast on Vigilance, with 11 regiments committed to the Otek Hive Sprawl. So it's an urban conflict. A lot of this stuff has been updated as per the cinematic, but still, either way, very cool. Like, I like to see odd regiments that I haven't seen before, and then of course some UM. Oh wait, I gotta see my layouts, otherwise I'm gonna. Alright, so, defending Black Legion, Ultramarines over here. I like as well how they have this spread out. You can see that the Imperial Guard are basically holding 90% of the front line, and then the Ultramarines are holding about 10%. And you can see the difference in the logistical train. The front line for the Astra Militarum is about 70% of the front line, and then the rest of it is holding forces. And then for the Ultramarines, it's all at the front, and then there's like one tiny reserve force. If you're considering like each of these are supposed to be a company, and each of these is supposed to be a squad or something, it's very interesting. And it's also interesting to see how they've outlined the Black Legionaries here. They've got icons that are indicating like larger threats, probably armored threats or some sort of indication of that, and then smaller, likely individual Marines or mini squads of 3 to 5. Power sword. Also the silly long bolt pistol. Alright, yeah, see. Lovely lock lasgun. Again, he's kind of pumping his arms. Whether or not you consider lasguns to have that kind of recoil is kind of up to you. But at least, as this is, he should probably not have that much of a limp noodle wrist when he's firing his gun. Also, we got some Ultramarines tanks back here. These look like the Grav tanks.
Well, together, we drive back the heretics.
Also, I don't know why the muzzle discharges from their weapons are yellow-red, and not the standard red of lasguns. So, that's a little bit odd. Also, this, again, hits to the Marines' armor, causing lethal kills. Not sure about that. Also, why the Black Legion don't seem to have any cultists with them is very, very odd. Like, you can see 0 cultists and no dead cultists on the ground. Why? This is the Black Legion. They have one of the best supplied and largest group of human cultists in the history of 40k. Why are they just using legionaries? It's dumb. So we've got one hit here, looks like a bolt shot to this dude's hip. Yeah, and it basically just knocks him down. It doesn't actually do all that much damage. Next dude gets hit on the side of his weapon. That should not be a lethal hit. That basically hit him in the thickest part of his armor, so that should do jack shit. This gentleman gets hit in the underside of his hip and ribs. That is a weak spot for the armor. Theoretically, that could do some damage. Knocks him backwards. This dude is reeling. He's hit in the shoulder. Again, I don't think that should do anything, basically. And somehow that drops him. I think I'd call that BS. Because even if that first one was a wounding shot, I don't think it was a lethal one. And then the shot to the shoulder should literally do nothing.
Heretics in the north.
So they've pushed in on this entire front line, so to speak, and you can see that several sections of these units are just bypassing the front line entirely. Another indication that they're not using cultists, by the way, which is just a terrible idea, because the Black Legion has great cultists. Lots of these boys. It says that they make their armor out of scrap metal, which actually kind of explains, one, the weird helmet shape, and it also explains a lot of how their armor is kind of flat and blocky and slab-like in many cases. So that's a pretty good image right there. I like this regiment. I'll look them up more and see if they're. I would hate to think that they were just created for this cinematic. That would be kind of sad, but it does happen on occasion. I hope that they have a little bit more legacy. Gotta love those las guns. God, they're cool. See, I like them because you can parade with them and you don't look like an absolute silly shit. You can carry them like it's a good old-fashioned 1900s bolt-action service rifle, and it's still a las gun. So, I'm a big fan of that. Honestly, if I was to make a regiment, I would heavily consider using the lock pattern, because it's cheap. Ah! Well, somehow you got snuck up on by orcs, which makes no sense, because, well, orcs. This is Vigilus, though, and a lot of wild shit comes out of the War of the Beast. So, on a slightly related note to Vigilus and the War of the Beast, the first one, the one that Rogal Dorn fought in, we have a rule in a lore server that I'm a part of called the Beast Box. And if we don't like a piece of lore, or if we think that it should no longer be canon, you throw it in the Beast Box, quote-unquote. So there's a channel on the Discord where you just kind of write up, this happened in this book, and it's completely ridiculous, I'm throwing it in the Beast Box, and we're just never referring to it again. And that's actually a reference to us basically throwing the entirety of the War of the Beast into the Beast Box, and not considering it canon.
13. The strength of our forces.
So, we've got big old trucks, wagons, armored trucks, and snaz wagons, and I'm not exactly sure what these are called, but it's basically a jet engine that's been modified into a land crawler of some kind. Lots of bikes, and of course lots of aircraft. Again, if we're talking about air cover, the Imperial Guard should probably have most Orcish Waaghs beat, unless they are particularly enormous.
Has attracted some.
But again, since this is the War of the Beast, yeah. So, we've got Evil Suns, Snake Bites, and Death Skulls. It's kind of odd that there's no Goths involved. Goths are usually the ones who show up to the biggest and fightiest portions of a fight. Sorry, just checking the stream health here so I can make sure that I'm still on. Yep, no, we're good. Oh, hi, goodness, there are more people watching us. Whoops. Might be. Or at least there were for a bit. So, yeah, we've got multiple different groups of orcs, snake bites, and death skulls. Death skulls you don't really see that often, or if you do, it's kind of in artwork because they have a very pretty design. Evil Suns are some of the best represented in the old art, but my personal favorite type of orcs are actually snake bites. I like the whole feral orc idea. I like the idea that they're one of the hardest group of orcs to get rid of, and it means that you can use them in a lot more engagements and stories, because they're not always incredibly powerful, OP monsters who can deal with everything like the Goths are.
Day 50.
They're also not cringe dudes who kill everything with guns like the, like the Evil Suns tend to be, or the Bad Bones. So, you can see the orcs basically immediately obliterate most of the positions that they're defending. And, what does it say? So, VGL111 Mark BN. Not sure if that's a technical term, but it is supposed to be indicating a Rogal Dorn main battle tank.
I sacrificed 21 regiments in a diversion attack.
Alright, yeah, this is another reference that I'm not sure I get. So, it's supposed to be that they're landing in this area, and then it moves to this image. I'm not sure if this image is... yeah. I'm not sure if this image is supposed to be in reference to, like, that ocean line, but I don't think that there's anything even remotely similar to this formation on that coastline. So this is either hella zoomed in, or it's, just off somewhere else. The other thing that I don't get here is he says, I sacrificed 21 regiments on a diversionary attack. How exactly are you doing diversionary attacks against orcs? They are orcs. They are literally mindless aggression machines.
21 regiments in a diversion.
Also, how the hell are you fitting 21 regiments onto an area that small? 21 regiments is like 30,000 plus dudes if half of them are tank regiments, which clearly there aren't. This is like a couple of companies right here. So, yeah.
Diversion attack.
Also, some heavy artillery for orcs. A little bit surprising there. Hey, remember when I was talking about killing Marines with physics?
Day
Yeah.
17. Our allies sell their lives dearly.
I am kind of shocked that they went straight for the Marines and actually won. It must have been a relatively small number of Ultramarines. We only really see 2 or 3 squads at absolute most, so they might have broken up those indications from the previous screen even more. But you can see the Orcs basically drop in from 4 different directions. Snakebites in the south, Evil Suns on the east, or on the west, and then Goths, or, shoot, Bad Moons? I am forgetting exactly who was involved. How am I forgetting? It just happened. Oh, no, Death Skulls. Sorry, yeah. They're always the ones that I forget, because goddammit. Yeah.
Dearly.
Yeah, if it was a light infantry regiment, it'd be over 1,000,000 dudes, but it's pretty obvious that they're not light infantry, because they're grenadiers. And that grenadier titling kind of means that they're going to be a line infantry regiment or assault infantry, but they're clearly not heavy infantry, so I'd call them line. Just because if they're actual grenadiers and it's not just a title, and they had armored regiments with them, so they might be the Grenadier Regiment, or they're called Grenadiers, but they then have armored regiments and actual Grenadier regiments. The Grenadier regiments probably have extra grenades per person, and then also use grenade launchers as a secondary weapon. So, in that case, per regiment, you're maybe looking at 50,000 men. So yeah, with 20 regiments sacrificed, if you didn't have a ton of them be armored regiments, that's pretty close to, I don't know, 500,000 dudes. It's a lot of men.
In battle with the Orcs.
God, see, this is always what they show when they talk about fighting orcs. Just this massive shoulder wave rugby charge of orcs, backed up by a ton of miscellaneous armor. And in my mind, I'm like, this is a ridiculous amount of orcs. However, it's also a ridiculous time to not be actively shooting. The lasgun can effectively kill an orc all the way back here, and they let the orcs get this close before they open up fire. And I know this is like a cinematic thing where they're always trying to make it look like an impossible odds. The lasgun can nail humans out to like somewhere around 500 plus meters with enough killing power to kill an unarmored human. Granted, these are armored orcs with body armor. That's all the more reason to start firing quickly and aim for headshots and chest shots to start dinging up their armor, or shoot them in the legs. Orcish armor is not very consistent, and there's plenty of weak spots in it, and if you can cripple the orc, that's pretty much just as good as killing them when you have this many of them to deal with. Yeah, like, you should already be shooting. Preferably on fully automatic, but you should already be shooting.
Day 19. Our covert.
Also, I love the orcish anti-aircraft that's just a bunch of random infantry fire.
Operations cripple the most powerful Orc faction.
Also, god damn, look at that. So, the whole thing with the orcs that they're trying to instill here is like, hey, if we kill the people in charge and get rid of the war bosses, then they'll turn against each other and they'll fight against one another, which is true some of the time. However, with the sheer number of orcs here, it's not always the case. Also, I love that they indicate this as well. This is clearly an archipelago of, like, islands and subcontinents. And they've set it out so the orcs have basically already conquered every single major target and city that's available on the planet. Like, there was one initial incursion, and the orcs essentially just went and obliterated everything else on the planet, while the Guard was dealing with a random group of Chaos Space Marines. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like orcs won't really go after, like, intentionally go after a place that has zero fighting going on and no one to resist them. You know, they might make slaves of those people, or eat them, or just murder them for fun, but the idea that they're splitting up and, like, covering all this ground simultaneously in the 15 or so days or less that the Guard are fighting with them is a little bit weird, in my opinion.
Luring their own allies to turn against them. Day 30. Across Vigilus.
Yeah, so in 15 days they go and take all that territory back, which just says to me that the orcs didn't actually conquer that. They just, like, rolled over it, basically, which can happen with a bunch of civilians.
Our armies drive the enemy.
Gosh darn. See, I don't like the Rogaldorn tank as a design or as like a weapon system or as a lore piece in 40k. I don't like it at all. But this looks pretty cool. I think that it's way too small compared to the Leman Russ. The Russ should be bigger than it is in most cinematics. And I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way, especially its stats on tabletop. But I don't know. It's cool in this cinematic, at least.
Be back. For the first time, men whispered of hope, even of victory.
Yeah, you know it's a bad day when the men whisper of hope and or victory. That's just never going to work out for them. Oh! Oh, I wonder what that is. God damn it, that is a defiler.
But I am certain this was only the beginning.
Alright, so that's the first one. Alright, what else have I got? Yeah, so the next one is the oh-so-controversial Horus Heresy cinematic trailer. So this one we're going to be pausing a lot more, honestly, because like most GW stuff, it's just complicated to see everything that they're trying to show us.
I was there when he painted this. An oddity among his schematics and calculations. Yet, this seemed to help him.
Alright, Constantine Valdor, as one would expect, quite heavily modified. One of the things I'd like to ask, does anyone have any theories as to what the cheek connections are? I've seen a lot of claims about, like, it's for water, it's for food, it's wired into their jaw, or haptic feedback, or something like that. My personal theory is that it's essentially a captive air supply. And then also, theoretically, the tube is meant to feed Skittles to whatever Space Marine and or Primarch has the cheek hookup. Because you'll note, it's only the most... Yeah, see, it might be drugs, but then why not put it directly into, like, a major vein? Like, that's into his jaw. That's not a place where you inject things, generally. I personally prefer the idea that it's like a Skittle dispenser. It slowly feeds you one Skittle every couple of minutes. And that keeps you fighting throughout the day. That's the real reason why Marines can operate for, like, multiple days without getting exhausted. They're just slowly getting fed Skittles. Or M&Ms, your choice. But yeah, I like the idea that he's hooked up like this, because the other person who's famous for having cheek hookups is Horus and Perturabo. For Perturabo, the man's practically got a buffet on tap that goes directly into the side of his jaw. So I can understand these being, like, injector sites on his neck, but into his, like, mouth and face? I don't know. M&M laced with drugs. Fair point, it could be.
A way he could express the enormity of his plan.
Sister of Silence is like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Not if the legions are successful. It depends.
See, she's a talkative one for a Sister of Silence. She'd be making all kinds of talkativeness with her hands. Alright, does anyone know what's on this dude's pauldron? I mean, to me, this looks like a demon or a great beast of some kind. I know there's lore about it, I just don't remember exactly what it is, because I'm not really a Custodes guy.
On how deep the rot goes.
Brother, by this point, we're actually at the Siege of Terra. I think you know how deep the rot goes. Everyone saw the Word Bearers. We know. Also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 Primarchs. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Feed data. Yeah, the ones that feed data to the brain are attached to the top of their head. Sure. I get that. That makes sense that it's hooked up to their brain, and most Space Marines have the attachment on the lower back of their cranium that essentially hooks into the top of their spinal cord. That makes sense. The one into their mouth, on the other hand, that one doesn't make a lot of sense. Alright, we got a fuck ton of dead Space Marines. Like, that's a lot of dead Space Marines. That is piles of dead Marines. And a Iron Warrior Praetor, I think they're intending for this to be. I love a lot of the heresy stuff. I think this is a little bit much. In between all the like the headdress and the ceramic on his maul and the big old standard, especially with the parchment on it, that looks much more 40k to me than it does 30k. And as much as these danglies and everything make sense for a Praetor, I think especially for Iron Warriors, this is a lot of heraldry. So I hope that this is a named character I just don't know about. If this is what they're saying the generic, like, Centurion or Leader of the Legion looks like, that's very, very inaccuracy. Or very, very inaccurate. Yeah, see, it doesn't matter if it's the beginning. The Iron Warriors generally did not go in for this kind of heraldry whatsoever. I mean, I can think of exactly 0 pieces of artwork where even the entire Legion's captaincy had this level of pageantry on. So, I think that's up to taste. I just prefer a lot of the old 30k art that indicates that, well, the Marines dress like Marines, very uniform, and even their captains and leaders aren't so insane. Yeah, so I'm like, this is a little bit odd. This definitely looks more like a Praetor from the actual Roman legions than it looks like one from a Space Marine legion. Also, I love how all the Iron Warriors, they're not allowed to show the lower half of their face. All of the named Iron Warriors, just no, I don't need to see anything below this level of your face. No, you're just not allowed. Also, double service studs, so I'm not sure how long that is. Again, it depends on the Legion what the service studs indicate. It's not consistent. But I would assume that this is less than 200 years. Maybe a little bit more than that, but yeah, we'll see. Alright, the Gladius tank double battle cannons. And, oh my god. See, this is... I don't know. 30k vehicles are, on one hand, ridiculous. On the other hand, just very cool. And especially the fact that they keep adding in new Space Marine vehicles, I'm not a huge fan of, because, come on guys, we already had a lot of tanks in 30k that we don't have anymore, and every time you add a new one, or add back in one that you said didn't exist in that time, you're kind of making it hard for us to believe that none of these things survived to the modern day. But this one, I know, is a canonical tank, and I think it's nice that it's here. But yeah, every time I see a 30k vehicle, I'm torn between, like, that's a really bad vehicle design, and that's really fucking cool in 30k. Yeah, so we got 2 of these tanks. This one looks like it's either got Volkite or Plasma, and then a Land Raider. Got the Tarantulas with the autocannons. Gotta love these. This is one of the points of controversy. They were talking about how a Space Marine can't fit inside of here because it's such a tiny little pod. I don't really disagree. I don't think a Marine should be able to fit in here with his armor. That seems a little odd. And also, this is 30k. Why not just use a servitor? Or even a human or a human Legion serf. There's lots of Legion humans who serve with the Legions, both in, like, the traitor human regiments and just who worked with the Legion in general. Why not put one of them in here? I don't know why they have to imply that this is a Marine. Also, big autocannons. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles, I think. Also, so... It's a giant. Yeah, no, sorry, no, I wasn't saying it's a tarantula as in it's the same exact thing as a tarantula. I was saying that it is basically a tarantula in terms of, like, what it's equipped with. But yeah, I'm aware that it's bigger than a tarantula. I'm just saying I was seeing people complain about that. I don't think it's ridiculous. I just think that it probably shouldn't have a Marine in it because that's a waste of a Marine in there. Especially if they have to use a visual portal. Yeah. Yeah, main battle cannons on the Sakharin. So, this is another thing. War sound, that's hilarious commentary. But firing both of these guns off at the same time is actually a terrible idea. We tried this in I think in the 60s and 70s. We tried to make it so that you could put 2 guns together and we tested out to see how they would affect accuracy. Basically, no matter what you do, if you have two cannons basically barrel to barrel with one another, they will always interfere with one another's accuracy, or they will grow more inaccurate over time. So if they're not in a turret with individual cradles, and you fire both of them at the same time, the buffeting from both of their like shell wash interferes with one another. And while that's fine for, like, naval ships, because the other thing that they tested this on was naval ships, while it's fine for naval ships, with tanks, it's actually a pretty unacceptable loss of accuracy. So, there's that. I'm not a big fan of that. Also, that thing just deflecting two massive battle cannon shots is wild. Pretty well protected there, shield-wise. Okay, hold up just 1 second. So, basically all the damage that is done to this one is chip damage until, like, now. They hit the fuel tanks on the back of it and light it on fire. You can see flames licking out from the interior, and they've shot several of the fuel tanks. Again, not having closing fuel tanks is not a guarantee on 30k or 40k vehicles, because, again, regression of technology. So the idea that blowing up an external fuel tank and damaging the internals could spread a fire inside actually makes less than, or more than 0 sense. Also, just how far it goes on its own weight is wild. Hey, gotta love the quad las cannon, las cannon Land Raiders. They're really, really fun. And you can also see just how well armored these things are. It's practically like a turtle on tracks. So, we've got our salamanders running out here, and the dude in front has a weapon that is... yeah, that disabling it is kind of crazy. I mean, it's not impossible. It's just like, wow, that's lucky, especially with autocannons. Alright, so this dude has a disintegration gun in front, which is, again, wild. And, man. See, I can't see exactly how many there are, but I think it's supposed to be 10. And then there's another Land Raider over here with another 10. So, we've got our disintegrator gun here. Again, even in the Heresy, this was, like, super rare. Not necessarily Archaeotech, though it was based on Archaeotech technology. It was super rare, so pretty unique gun right here. And honestly, very nice Salamander armor. I am certainly a big fan. I am a huge fan of Mark III in general, and the kind of helmet-style armor that they have. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I know, they could fit a lot of dudes, which is why I'm like 10 is a little bit low. Also, that dude has a really classic bolt gun. And, poor Servo Skull. What did that Servo Skull do? He didn't do nothing to deserve to get literally fucking vaporized. The Armor's Mark II or the Bolter's Mark II? Because it's kind of hard to tell. No, I think that armor is Mark III. Yeah, it's Mark III. It has to be. It's the helmet and the legs that give it away. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the bladed pauldron down the, groin, the armor on the legs, and the helmet, that all says to me Mark III. But I could be wrong. Yeah, yeah, it's a Phobos bolter. It's a nice one. You sure it's Mark II? It looks very Mark III to me. Especially with the gut plate. But then again, these are salamanders, and they modify their armor pretty extensively, so I might be off. Yeah. That poor Servo Skull, what did he do to deserve that? And then this dude has a Combi Bolter? No, he has a Combi Melta. That's what he's got. Very nice pattern as well. I am a big fan. Yeah. See, the armor dies. Let me see if that's indicative of the armor. Mark II power armor. Well, they're armored, but they're not segmented in the same way that is. Let me check. Because the main difference between Mark II and Mark III is in the legs. Alright. Yeah, see, they're not segmented. That's one piece. There's no scalloping on the legs. It's Mark III. It has to be. Let me double check. Yeah, no, it's definitely Mark III. 100% it's Mark III. You can see that he's got no slits, and he's got no slits on his legs. This is a solid piece of ceramite. And also between the breastplate, the hang down, the helmet, and the larger pauldrons, you can tell that it's Mark III. Yeah. Hold up. Hold up. Fuck, it's hard to see because GW is shit at animation. Oh, God. GW, could you just, like... Okay. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, new design they chose? Fuck them. God damn it. Why do they... See, because now there's no difference between Mark II and Mark III. The big issue with Mark II was that scalloped, lacquered design was weaker because it was thin bands of ceramite that were easier to crack. And now they've gone and made it look exactly like Mark III because they already had the same type of helmets. God damn it. Fuck you, GW. Why do you do this to me? I'm autistic about one type of thing, and then you go and make it the exact same. Screw you. Alright. Sorry, apologies for the disagreement there. I just really, really like Mark III, and it really annoys me that they modified Mark II to look exactly the same. I don't know what armor this dude is wearing, but it's pretty heavy. Also, hold up. I wanted to see something there. You can see, yeah, so... This is really interesting. It makes this look way more like a muzzle brake. You can see this tube inside of here is heating up. That's not muzzle wash coming out of this muzzle brake. No, the barrel has like an internal shroud, and then there's a muzzle brake around it. Which I guess makes more sense, but it also makes this an incredibly pointless muzzle brake, because it's not doing muzzle brake things. It's not shrouding or covering any of the blast or wash from the bolt shell. It's just there. Yeah, old Mark III does. I hope it looks better. I haven't seen it necessarily yet, but yeah, this muzzle brake design is like odd because it's kind of pointless. But it also makes more sense than just putting two holes through the barrel. But, again, it's a bolter, so the velocity's kind of capped by a bell curve anyway. So, not that much of a problem. Also, nice melta. Also, I love this. Out of that giant field of dead Marines, there's just a bunch of Iron Warriors waiting. Which, nice. Also, he's got the bayonet bolter as well. I can't see him here, but he had a bayonet. Yeah, so Iron Warrior's basically on 3 sides. And we're trying to redo the drop site massacre again. Yeah, so, yeah, let's look at that again. Because you can see 1, 2, at least 3 dudes who have disintegration guns. Yeah, send me that. I'd love to see it. So you can see, like, at least 1, maybe 2, and then 3 people who have disintegration guns. And then, when it zooms in, we got another disintegrator here. And another one here. So, like, 5 dudes in this group of maximum 40 have disintegration guns. Which is a lot. I mean, I know they might be trying to push it as, like, a new weapon that they're adding into the game, but... I mean, it's almost relic weapon level even during the Heresy from what I read. So, I don't know how I feel about multiple of them being in, like, the same squad, basically. Yeah. Oh, goddamn. See, look at that maul shot. On one hand, look, this is another cool thing about combi weapons, is pulling the trigger on one hand. Thank you very much, Tuna. Let me take a look at that. Okay, so that's the new Mark II, you say? So, okay, so they kept some of the lacquering, it's just not layered now, which I guess means that it keeps the same flaws, it just looks less weird. Okay, yeah, that's fair, that's fair. I don't hate that as much. At least I can keep complaining about Mark II and say Mark III is better every time. But yeah, cool thing about the combi weapons is, like, with the mix of plasma from the Melta weapon and the bolt shell, you can get nice combo hits off. And then if you look at his, like, Mace of Sauron here, he's going to do a cool thing in a second. Also, where's your helmet? So, activating the power field. One of the good things about power weapons is that kind of pre-activation. Again, this dude's got, like, a gut plate and Praetor lines. It's difficult to see what part of him is red and what part of him is black. But yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's definitely lazy, no question. I'm not, you know me, I'm not gonna be blowing smoke up GW's ass, but I, I'm also gonna say that I was kind of upset that it would be exactly the same, and as long as there's visual difference, I'm not going to complain as much, but yes, it is lazy. I don't know, I like this power mole design, the kind of Mace of Sauron, multiple flanged heads. I think it's done really poorly in 40k. Like a lot of the Terminator models that I've used and had use that flanged bladed design, and it looks like four axe heads stuck together. And I think that looks kind of silly. This more blocky, clearly a power weapon only type design, I'm a big fan of that. I also like that this doesn't have a wire. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, improvements to power packs. The old GW art basically has zero difference between a lot of the early power packs, so any change to distinguish them is nice. Yeah. Oh shit, I have to back that up just a second, because that was very cool. So you can see he hits him directly, but there's no... Oh, fuck, it's so quick. It's so quick. So, yeah, there we go. There's that spray of blue, also another disintegration gun. Why do they all have disintegration guns, goddammit? This is also another good look at the armor. There's either yeah, so that looks to me like a crack down the middle of his breastplate, which, yes, exactly. With a power maul hit right to the chest, that actually does have a chance of shattering the Marine's breastplate down the center, but you can see that the first thing that it does is take a 1,400-pound Space Marine, and with what was a one-handed swinging strike that only got like a half wind-up worth of momentum, managed to actually throw him onto the ground. See, it should be cooked like it should be a little blasted and broken, but again, this is an animation. I'm not going to be upset at them for... Well, I am going to be upset because this is GW doing it, but I'm not going to be too upset about them doing that, and I'm going to pretend that this is battle damage, even though it's probably a stylistic thing. But even with that, you can see how much kinetic energy it brings with it, because it's not a Thunderhammer, right? It's not like a power field that's ripping things apart. It's intended to increase the kinetic damage, and then it also obliterates things that are in, like, direct combat, or direct contact with the Maul's head, so that makes sense to me. And I like the indication, like you can see the physical progression of the swing. So he's shooting here, his weapon is down, he takes like a half wind-up swing, basically from his back hip. If you're using like traditional weapon stances, you'd basically never be swinging from back here, but for a Marine it's fine. And he goes up with it, which is the opposite of momentum, and he almost does like a half lazy tennis swing. Right forward, putting only his shoulder really into the swing. And honestly, from this angle, he looks like Sigismund, which is wild. And he basically has maybe 3 feet of momentum before he actually hits this guy. And you can see the electricity, the kind of smack off of his armor, which is nice. But yeah, you're right, there should be burnt sections of armor, and he should definitely be more winded than, like, he gets his gun up into position in a fraction of a second. Obey the laws of physics, guys. His brain just traveled, like, 5 or 6 feet, and he's smacked into the ground. He should definitely be experiencing at least a few seconds of getting fucked around and finding out. And also, if you wanted to indicate that he was about to die from a single bolt round to the chest, you should 100% show that his breastplate is fucked right the hell up. It should be shattered right open for a bolter round to actually penetrate and kill him. Alright, so, let's talk about this image. Sauterine, or Saturnine, or whatever the hell you want to call them, Terminators. Something that has become a point of conversation now that lore people have gotten around and decided that they want to either be revisionist historians or make fun of GW for going back on their word. These are Sauterine Terminators, something that we already knew was kind of canon in the 41st millennium, both from the Salamanders and the prototype Terminator armor sets. But there are different versions of it, and we'll talk about that later. Also, these are equipped with straight-up heavy disintegrator weapons, which make absolutely no fucking sense, because, again, basically a relic weapon, and all of them have 2 of them. Also, I'd like to go back for just a second so we can see that image again. Okay, so a salamander with a bayonet on the bottom of his bolter. Number one, weird. Weird, odd, abnormal that is the case. Two, he just stabbed right through this dude's breastplate. That angle makes it so much worse. What the absolute fuck is this? Is there just a hole? Is there a gap there? What the actual fuck? That is not possible, dude. That is literally 3 inches of solid steel and ceramite, and dude just took a pocket knife and fucking stabbed him in the chest. It does look photoshopped. It looks like I'm being pranked. It seriously feels like I'm being fucking pranked. Oh my goodness. And this poor Iron Warrior, he literally looks unarmed. Where's this poor bastard's gun? Why didn't he have a bayonet? See, the thing that I love about this is they could have done, like, a normal thing. They could have stabbed him in the neck, or stabbed him in the stomach. No, he's just stabbing him straight through the fucking chest. Like the most armored part of the Marine. And then he lifts him up, again, 1,400 pounds in armor. Lifts him up on this flimsy-ass fucking bayonet, and shoots him in the chest. And that kills him. This whole image, this whole sequence is horseshit. And I think that they believe that they got away with it because in the Horus Rising trailer, there are also people getting stabbed with the bayonets. But in the Horus Rising trailer, they're getting stabbed underneath the arm, in the stomach, and in the neck. This dude just stabs him straight up through the most armored part of the Marine, and then shoots him in the most armored part, and then he just slumps. Like he just, you know, God cut his fucking strings. Also, may I just say, again, Soldering Terminators, the main disadvantage of these guys was their 100% lack of mobility. If they started out here, it actually kind of makes sense that they've basically taken 10 steps. Because they're so slow. And they're just kind of tottering along incredibly slowly, trying to move this incredible armor. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny to me that, like, all 5 of them have basically gone out in different directions, and they've made it about 30 feet. Also, just absolutely, this poor dude is fucked, number one. But number two, like, they're unloading with the bolt guns, and it's just doing nothing. It's just doing nothing, which, yeah, makes sense. Soldering Terminator armor. Okay, here's the other thing that I gotta talk about. The Soldering Terminator that we see a lot of the time, yeah, they're like Centurions, but they're a little bit different in 2 ways. One, they're a lot slower. 2, they limit your vision and your mobility even more than the Centurion, in my opinion. Because Terminator armor already relies pretty heavily on its own physical strength and momentum to get you around to places, whereas Centurion armor is basically built more like an exosuit. This takes the structure of Terminator armor, which is already reliant on mobility and momentum to get moving, and it makes it twice as heavy, basically. So, 2 things. One, they've changed the gut armor just a little bit. Obviously, they've made the pauldrons higher and smaller, and they've also changed the helmets that these guys are wearing, which is why I think that they're claiming that these are different sets of suits. Oh yeah, no, the armor is way better. The whole point of the Soldering armor is that it's basically as invulnerable as a Dreadnought, in exchange for being less mobile, more expensive, and or just not existing. Again, they were basically relic prototypes, even at the time when they were out. Very few of them, certainly not enough to deploy in large numbers like this, unless there was a particularly good reason. And the other thing that they've changed is the helmets. So the helmets used to be way flatter. They used to be straight up flat to the faceplate of the armor, and it would almost move in like a recessed Tyrell. Now they've given them actual Space Marine helmets that fit inside of the armor like it's a Centurion suit, as if they've put on a second breastplate over Cataphractii armor, basically. That's not really how it was supposed to be. Yeah. Yeah, they're really odd. I think they've done this to justify some lore explanations that I think some people were trying to peddle. But again, the idea that all of these are here with all this expensive and extreme armor, where's Vulcan? Like, that's really my question, because the only time that you would see shit like this is if the Primarch was nearby, in my opinion. There's no reason for relics this important and weaponry this deadly to be brought to bear unless the Primarch is nearby, or it's like the Siege of Terra and it's time to break out the impossible to find shit. And again, I don't know. It's kind of the uncanny valley effect when I look at the Sauterine armor, because I did a whole section on Sauterine armor when I did my Terminator video, and I was like, this is cool armor. It's kind of a trade-off, and it's a really interesting one here. I like the design, and I think it looks really good on lots of different legions. And then they come out with it, and I'm like, you're not the same, but you are the same. It feels like they're changing little things to justify them being really, really good, where in reality, there's a reason why Sauterine armor didn't catch on. And it's not what they say. They're always like, oh, it's too expensive, it's a relic, that's why... No, it didn't catch on because it was shit. It was a prototype that didn't work out, for a really good reason. It's too slow. And too expensive, and you don't have any... kind of situational awareness or the ability to react. So in open field battles like this, it sucks. It's absolutely terrible. It's probably one of the worst sets of Terminator armor for this particular scenario. However, if you have some good support for it, or if you're using the original version that covers much more of the torso and shoulders rather than just this upper level, it's pretty good. Welcome, Australian. Oh, yeah, no, 100% they're doing the disintegration weapons wrong. They shouldn't be just disintegrating everything. It should just be a section. We've been going for about 40 minutes, dude. You're all good. We've only watched the first part of a couple cinematics, and we're going into the Horus Heresy trailer. And, of course, this will be uploaded, so you'll be able to get back. Also, this is wild. So this is the Dreadnought Sauterine, or the Sauterine Dreadnought. This does not exist. This is not a thing. This was never a thing. There have never been any designs that portrayed this whatsoever. This is also a disintegration weapon on a dreadnought, another thing that does not exist and never did exist. This is why I'm kind of getting nervous when I was watching the cinematic. I'm like, uh-oh, hold up. People are going to be confused. They're going to think Sauterine armor is normal. They're going to think the dreadnought actually is a real thing and not some kind of prototype. Oh shoot, where's the Terminator? No. I'm saying shit and I'm on the wrong section. Oh, here it is. Sorry, it also gets teleported down. I got confused. Sorry, yeah, okay. You're very right. My apologies, Tuna. It's the next one. All of my previous complaints still apply, by the way. Yeah. So it's a Terminator. Or, sorry, it's a Dreadnought. That original one was a Terminator, but this is a Dreadnought. Again, Sauterine Dreadnought. Not a design that exists. Not a thing that has ever been a thing. And you can see it's got like a plasma bombard, which again, that did exist. That was on the Leviathan Dreadnought. I don't know why they couldn't have just used a Levi Dread, because this looks a lot like a Levi Dread. But I think that they're even calling it Sauterine Dreadnought armor. Which makes no fucking sense, because that's not a thing. But also, this shares so many components with the Leviathan. It has the chest-mounted weapons, it has the massive shoulder pads, it has the increased protection, the better shields. Why not just make a loyalist Levi Dread, or just a normal Levi Dread? I don't know. It really annoys me. But also, again, if this is supposed to be the Sauterine version of a Dreadnought, that does not exist. This is not a thing that existed. They're going to have to 100% justify that this prototype armor exists. Yep, no, you have a very fair point. Yeah, death of history and reality, the altering of media. Yes, companies do tend to change things over time. Yeah. Oh, well, it has been used by the Thanatar, but also there is something a little bit like that with the plasma, or no, the Grav Bombard for the Leviathan. Ah. Okay, yeah. So you might be right. This is plasma then, in which case, again, new weapon. And this is the thing that I think GW does a lot, where they're like, we have to make a new set for the announcement of X or Y. Look through the forums, look through the lore, find something that we can just smash together and that will look good and look cool. And they'll be like, well, we have this big plasma weapon. Yeah, it's the Leviathan Dreadnought. It uses something like it. It uses the Grav Flux Bombard, which is, again, similar. It's not a plasma weapon. It's more like a bombardment gravity weapon, I guess. There's not really a great explanation for how that thing works, because, again, basically Archaeotech. But they try and find something that kind of fits, where they'll be like, Sauterine Terminators, we said that it would never be canon, and that it was just kind of a one-and-done prototype thing, but now we're going to make up a whole bunch of lore about it being an elite relic weapon that the Salamanders adopted, because they were the original ones with the prototypes. And then they'll be like, well, we can't just make it all Terminators, what else can we do? We'll make disintegration guns, and we'll put them back in for all these different factions and groups. It's like, okay, well, there was basically super limited access to those, so we're going to make an elite unit? No, just regular fucking Space Marines with no indication of any level or unit or speciality. Oh, and also we're going to have every single unit that we show in the cinematic disintegration weapons, because, you know, fuck them being rare and basically one of a kind at a majority of the time. And then giving it to all the things, and it's just layer upon layer of just being like, fuck the lore, we can do what we want for the new launch. I'm not a big fan of the Salamanders, but I can definitely empathize with you guys not getting a lot of models or a lot of lore since the 30K universe. I can empathize with that. I am a Night Lords fan. We are in a very similar boat. However, because I am a Night Lords fan, I can't really celebrate your wins as vehemently as you might want me to. So, apologies there. That is my fault. Also, can I just say, this is like... I know it's like a bad thing to say, but this is a fucking chode plasma gun. It's just the shortest fucking wide-ass barreled plasma gun. This literally looks wider than it is long, if you know what I'm saying. This salamander might be, Brother Compensatius, so to speak. Guys, plasma weapons. We can make them a certain length. Is the Night Lord's boat made out of skin? It is covered in skin. Yeah. Yeah, see, gravity weapons, that makes sense, though. Because gravity weapons actually are replicable in the modern 40k day. They weren't for a while, but it was the idea of like, oh, we had access to them in the Heresy, we could make them in the Heresy, but we can't make them in the modern day. The disintegration weapons are even further rare than that. They were basically not replicable during the Heresy days, and they were rare relics at that time, or at least the technology was never understood even during the Heresy. And I can double check that if you'd like. Disintegration weapons? 40k? Yeah. See, they've already gotten to the goddamn forums, and they've put in a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. Human origin relics from the Dark Age of technology, with few remaining in Imperial use, and the ones that do revered beyond measure. And the reference for that is... yeah, the 30th anniversary Space Marine rules, basically. Yeah, both have always been poorly understood, but it was understood at the time during the Horus Heresy that you couldn't even replicate disintegration weapons. It wasn't like, oh, we barely understand it, but we can kind of cobble it together. No, disintegration weapons were supposed to literally be pure archaeotech that were absolutely impossible to replicate, and that's why they were so rare. You just couldn't make more of them. And now, out of the blue, GW has essentially crapped out 4 different types of disintegration weapons that are being used on the squad level for seemingly cinematic reasons. Like, you know, I can understand it, because gravity weapons are a thing, but the thing is, we know that they were able to make gravity weapons. It's pretty implied that you couldn't make more disintegration weapons. And of course, the other thing is, with that archaeotech, how do you change it into a different form? How do I get ones that fit on dreadnought nipples? How do I get ones that fit on double-barreled on Terminators? How can I make ones that acted as double-barreled heavy weapons? So it's, I don't like it. I don't like it. I can understand it. But the difference between gravity weapons and disintegration weapons should be very clear. One is replicable during the 30K era, one is not. Yeah, shut up the Star Trek fans for saying random red shirt with his phaser could solo all of Warhammer 40k. Star Trek fans are, I'm not going to say entirely delusional, but they certainly have a higher opinion of most of their stuff than they do, and that's why certain shows are kind of making fun of them in the modern day. Okay, here's the controversial scene. Here's the very controversial scene. So we already saw him take a short shot with the Melta earlier and blasted a dude. Yeah. Yeah, again, I'm not saying that it's impossible for them to get a stockpile of them, but modification and stockpile are two different things. Also, that is the Dark Angels and the Iron Hands. That's not the Salamanders. Also, those are plasma and grav weapons. Again, not disintegration weapons. Very, very different things. Again, talking about generally understood conventions versus what they're showing us on screen. So, we already saw that this gentleman took off a short shot with his plasma weapon earlier and killed a Marine. Watch what he does now. Alright, hold the fucking phone. That is a beam. That is a beam. It connects at basically 209. And it's melting at least until 210. So that is a full second of a Meltagun firing. Now, are we team burst or are we team beam? Because myself personally, I'm team neither. I never thought of the Melta as a beam weapon. I hated that interpretation because it implied that the Melta was just another high-powered laser weapon, and at that point, why not just use Melta Tech in place of las cannons, or las cannons in place of Melta Tech? And then there's the... See, the problem with the burst theory, my problem with the burst theory is this. Space Marine 1 lets you use the Meltagun, and it works like a shotgun. It's a Meltagun. It has to be directed, otherwise it doesn't penetrate armor well. If it acts like a shotgun, if it works like a burst weapon, that doesn't make any sense. So I go with both. Essentially, the idea is instead of being a beam of energy or a burst of plasma, it is a single shot, essentially, or a very, very short burst of, essentially, ionized plasma and metal. So I always went with the theory that it's essentially like a really, really high-energy sand blaster. So 1 second shooting is way, way, way too long, especially given this level of damage. You can see that it essentially makes contact. Melta weapons should be melting immediately on contact. This is what I would imagine coming out of a Volkite weapon, with the beam slowly damaging him and then the radiation kind of cooking his insides. That would make sense if this was a Volkite weapon, but it's not a Volkite weapon, it's a Melta weapon. And they clearly have it connecting, and it still hasn't done damage. It should be firing a burst of plasma, essentially doped or melted in with a bunch of superheated metal. And it's not. It's this constant little dinky beam that he's having to keep on target, which is absolutely ridiculous. See, no, it's not a conversion weapon. You can actually see really earlier, it gives you a very, very good detail on his gun, and you can see absolutely, here, no one's going to call that a conversion beamer. It's clearly not a conversion beamer. There's no chance in hell. It doesn't have any of the rings or the Tesla coils. It's a Meltagun. It's literally a combi Melta. There is no way in hell it's not supposed to be a combi Melta. And this is just ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is beyond breaking any lore conventions that we had for the Meltagun. And it's taking away any theory that we had that it's a plasma weapon, because that's not how plasma weapons work at 40k. Oh my god. I don't think it should be a shotgun blast like it was in Space Marine, but I think it absolutely should be shooting a mix of, like, metal-doped plasma and just a bolt of plasma, basically, which is why it's rather short range, because at a certain point it spreads out and becomes less effective. Yeah. The conversion beamer and the Volkite weapons are more like a nuclear ray gun. Yeah, see, but it's not just like a brief, rough beam. It actually is like a lob of metal and plasma, which is why it's so good at penetrating armor. It is that super high temperature that allows it to melt through protection. Yeah, but here's the thing. We don't even get any confirmation most of the time that Melta is supposed to be able to fire for this long. Like, my initial thought was, what the absolute fuck? How is he keeping a Melta gun firing for that amount of time? Melta guns are almost always indicated to be basically single shot or semi-automatic at the absolute best. This beam theory or this beam design is absolutely wild. Not to mention the fact that if this is something that you can do, you should be able to crack open any armor using the Meltagun, and it kind of defeats the purpose, because we have weapons that do this at this range. We have las cutters, obviously. We have various different laser weapons. You could make any number of beam weapons that do this job, and honestly, considering that this is all that it does to a Dreadnought, basically melts a couple of inches off the armor, have you seen what a genuine, like, multi-melta can do to a Dreadnought? I'll show you a reference picture. Here. That's the reference image. That's what a multi-melta does to a Dreadnought upon first firing. That literally is rippling the armor and melting off inches of ceramite and blasting into the carapace at a single shot. Granted, that's a multi-melta. But even with this being the reference image, that's clearly an explosive single shot and not a beam. So it should 100% not be doing this, like, slow melting like it's firing with a single laser beam. I mean, technically, yes. The difference between the Fusion Blaster and the Meltagun is that the Fusion Blaster is using pure plasma, and the Meltagun is using that Sand Blaster theory, where it's also spraying them with superheated metal. Which is why it's both quote-unquote heavier than standard plasma, and also hits with a lot more kinetic energy. Yeah, see, like, that's the thing. This is not the damage of a Melta weapon. This is not the firing method of a Melta weapon. This makes absolutely no sense given the lore that we know about Melta weapons. And if this is how Melta weapons work, here's the really bad thing. If this is how Melta weapons work, this invalidates a whole bunch of things that exist in the lore about both how they're used and how we want to use them in future. Because if you can just use it like a solid beam weapon that constantly melts through any amount of armor, why can't I use Melta weapons to melt through walls of hives? Yeah, so I get the Melta from two things. One, since we know that it's a plasma weapon, why is it always a different color? Why is it always yellow? Well, the answer is, if you dope a plasma beam or a plasma burst, I did a whole video on this, but if you dope a plasma beam or a plasma burst with metal, you actually get a lot more impact on the target, because plasma doesn't really have all that much mass. But what you want with the Meltagun is essentially a material that can constantly eat and melt through material, rather than plasma, which simply instantly vaporizes material and then dissipates. Melt is the exact opposite. It does all of its penetration in one sharp, short burst, and the way that it does that is by spraying its target with a mix of both plasma to energize the target and incredibly super hot metal, very close to what you would imagine as a heat round from a tank shell. Essentially, Melta is designed as again, like a heat round that you can fire. And yeah, it is used as Melta in weapons as walls, but why can't a single Marine with a Meltagun just melt right through a hive wall? All he would have to do is hold down the trigger and walk forward, instead of having to blast it multiple times as you would with something like a Sand Blaster. Again, it changes the mentality around the weapon, and I personally am just not a big fan of how it works out. So, again, the Sand Blaster Melta idea is what I kind of go with. Yeah, plasma cutter. We also have las cutters, laser cutters, all different types of stuff, Melta bombs, etc. All of those are essentially going to be using superheated metal in conjunction with plasma, much like that jet of copper that comes out of a heat round. I think it should be exactly like that, because it makes a lot more sense with the kind of damage that we see from it. It also means that you're not going to have to do this stupid thing of keeping the Melta on target as you fire at a single target. Which, again, that was a super big problem with conversion beamers and with Volkite. I don't think that should be a problem with Melta, because we have exactly zero evidence of people dodging out of the way of Melta shots as the person tries to keep a bead on the same target. That seems absolutely ridiculous to me, especially given the short range of most Melta weapons.
The attack failed.
Also, we're forgetting the whole thing. The Melta rule. The Melta rule from all of 40k's history is, once the target is within half range, it has more damage or more armor penetration, depending on what edition you're looking at. And it's like, so if the beam is shooting at long range, what the hell is the point? Like, if it's got the plasma in it, then at short range it makes more sense, because more of the heated metal is hitting the target and getting sandblasted into them. If it's not that, then why does it have a range limitation whatsoever? Yeah, well, here's the thing. It's one of two things. Either, yes, that's some sort of mastercrafted meltagun that has a efficient reactor or a constant beam, or, what I think might also be the case, is that essentially that's supposed to be like a slowed down progression or something like that. Or, who knows, maybe that's just an opening to it. Yeah, I have no idea. Well, alright, I'm not saying like that. I'm saying like on tabletop, why would it matter if it's short range? So like this, in my opinion, should be a single shot that hits him. What I'm talking about with the short range thing is, if the beam has if the beam wouldn't have problems with range, which since it's a beam it wouldn't be, it would make more sense that it's that doped metal plasma, because that would actually struggle at range, which is what's indicated by the tabletop rules. Do you see what I mean? That theory with the plasma and the metal makes more sense given the whole plasma or the whole Melta rule than this beam theory, because this straight up just doesn't make any sense, because this would have no drop off at range, because it seems like this is consistently the same type of damage. Necromorph faction like Genestealer cults? Could the Necromorphs be a viable threat? Yes? I mean, there's lots of undead factions within 40k, between the Plague Marines and the different diseases that cause zombies. There's Khornate zombies at one point. Khorne raises a bunch of guys from the dead. I mean, the Necromorphs are just kind of extremely tough, so yeah, I could see them being a reasonable threat. You just need to port them, which might be difficult. They could be a weird, like, Clave of Xenos, maybe, but it'd be really easy to make them with Chaos Magic.
The attack failed.
How many?
Oh boy, it's Malka cringe.
Half of the legions now stand with Horus.
You're surprised?
In the end, I suppose not. Do you wonder if they might be right? Many will sympathize with their rebellion.
I am the Emperor's spear. What I think doesn't matter.
What now, then?
We make ready for a war that may never end.
Oh look, it's a dead Beaky. Alrighty, that was a good one. Good cringe one. Alright, next one up is Deathwatch, little vignette. I'm a Chaos fan. That should answer your question. No, I am not a big fan of Malka cringe. Two reasons. One, he's a loyalist. Two, basically I just am not a big fan of how every single time that Malkador arrives and tries to do anything, he's basically protected by the Emperor almost all the time. So, when he's talking against Horus, when he's speaking out against Lorgar, essentially anything that Malkador does, he's like uber mysterious, and yet also he's completely protected from anything, so yeah, there's that, and then there's also the idea that his spot kind of got usurped just a tiny bit by Erda. So the idea was Malkador was supposed to be advising the Emperor and giving him help with all these different things and being helpful to him. And that's like, oh, the Emperor had a wife for like that entire time. And also, he was taking more like opinions and advice from her. And it's like, Malkador, what the fuck were you doing during that entire period of time? Also, if you're supposed to be counseling the Emperor, you couldn't have told him, hey, maybe, like, this whole sending your son off to be in charge of the campaign while you go do God knows what, maybe that isn't a good idea. So, you know, just an opinion. Again, I'm not a 30k guy, so my opinions don't really matter all that much, but, yeah, Malka cringe. Erda. Yeah, Erda. here before the Imperials and will be here after. Technically, you weren't here before, because before you were the Mechanicus, you were just Mars. So, you know, until you have your Omnissiah there to look at you, you technically aren't the Mechanicus. Just kidding, but funny. This is some grainy-ass footage. God damn. Now be aware, I have not seen this one. Alright, we've got Guardsmen. That looks like a Las Carbine. That also, these look like Las Carbines.
Quick, close the door.
These are Cadians? Yes, they are. Holy shit! Those are tiny! God. Oh, shoot. Oh, you know what these remind me of? Okay, so there's a schematic of the, there's a schematic of the M36 Galaxy that has all of the sections removed, and it actually shows that you can screw the barrel out of the M36, and it still works. So these are like M36 Galaxy lasguns that have been cut down to like absolute minimum, or they're Cantrell pattern carbines. But either way, these are so small! They're adorable! Oh my god! I love these. It's like an Uzi. Have a good one, Wallflower. Take care. These are adorable lasguns. I love them. Also, they have the bayonets on front, which is even funnier given how short these are. These look like las pistols. Oh my god, they're so small. Massive fleets. I believe it was like... Oh, are you talking about the ones during Old Night, or are you talking about the ones during the Age of Strife? Because if you're talking about the ones during Old Night, those were actually pretty cool. Oh, we got some Deathwatch Marines. So, this is a Crimson Fist and a Black Templar. Honestly, two of the most bro legions that exist.
The Emperor be praised. Astartes.
See, they always look so much scarier with the red eye lenses. I don't know what it is, but when you give Loyalists red eye lenses, that is so much scarier. Especially in Black Templars. But yeah, the Crimson Fist is holding his own. He's got his red bolt gun. I don't know why. Just is red.
We better move.
Yeah, I would also be sweating and getting out of the way, TBH.
Come on, let's go.
Brother couldn't have just opened the door, he just decided violence. He is a Black Templar, so I guess. Why would you not just use the door? Oh boy, flayed ones. Gotta love that. Oh man, see, it would suck to have those carbines against flayed ones because they actually are made of that living metal, which can be relatively tough. Yeah, Deathwatch and Grey Knights are supposed to be Super Space Marines. Then we got Primaris from the Warp Squirrel. Yes. See, I was cool with a lot of different super elite marine stuff. Like, the Deathwatch being super good against Xenos, because that's like their one and only autistic obsession, fine. The Grey Knights being quote-unquote good against demons, that's the thing. I don't like the idea of the Grey Knights being good against demons. It's more like they're the only option against demons. It's more like they're the best possible choice amongst all of the terrible choices. That's a little bit more accurate, because once there are too many demons, the Grey Knights get outnumbered, and once there are too few demons, the Grey Knights don't show up. So, it's kind of a catch-22 with the Grey Knights a lot of the time. But yeah, it's rough with that Primaris out here, because that shouldn't exist, and it does, but we kind of have to deal with it. If Call was found on a metal cross, it would be pretty cool. I didn't read that out loud. Also, if this is supposed to be skin, whoever had this should be more hydrated. This looks very, very pale. Also, I'm not sure why he's crawling. I don't usually see flayed ones crawling around on the ground, but maybe they do. Bro is just absolutely ready to try and gut a Space Marine. It is an unfortunate day to have a skull. Oh yeah, no, I can't stand Loyalist Marines. However, that seems remarkably unnecessary, but okay. I love how it's the thinnest part of the Necron that he could have stabbed through. Could have gone for the chest, could have gone for anywhere else, but he chose the thinnest part. Also, this is the most buddy cop shit, like, hey, I impaled him, you want to shoot him for me? You shot the last one. Aww. Also, I'm not sure if they're, like, supposed to disintegrate, but I think they kind of are, and they don't be disintegrating, so I'm not sure exactly what state their reanimation protocols are in at the moment. Okay, so the lit up shield, because this is supposed to be a power shield, I understand it, but I don't think it should glow blue. It should basically be shielded the same way that refractor fields work, where it's a tiny bit of fielding, but that's only if this is actually a normal refractor shield. Again, it's Inquisition, so they actually are allowed to have these, but generally storm shields won't have this kind of aura around them unless it's Terminators, or I think it's very, very higher up elites like lieutenants and such. Normal storm shields that like sergeants or run-of-the-mill Terminators would use, they don't always have a power field around them. That is true. No amount of overkill is ever enough. However, I think here's the thing. I was assuming that he's using the special fancy anti-Necron rounds. He might not be. POV, you have a pulse. Yeah, see, because if that was a normal storm shield and didn't have a shield around it, it would currently be in 2 separate pieces. Yeah, see, okay. This is what I'm thinking. He might have normal... Yeah, he has normal bolt rounds, because if that was the special fancy anti Necron bolt rounds, that wouldn't have healed that quickly. Oh yeah, dude, the Deathwatch have an anti-whatever for basically every race in the galaxy. It's hilarious. They have 3 different anti-Tyranid rounds. They have anti-fungal, anti-orc rounds that light on fire. They have hyper armor penetrating rounds and filament rounds. And then they also have a specific round that is designed to deal with Necrons. It's not like a thing that deletes them like some other rounds do, but there is a special anti-Necron round, yes. I just forget what it's called at the moment. It might be like a combo with one of the armor-piercing rounds, like Kraken rounds might also work with them, but it might be like Bane Strike or Necrototic Venom or whatever it is. Just one of those special rounds. God damn, what an unfortunate day to let me understand a friggin', yeah. Oh, yeah, so here's the thing. I'm pretty sure the Inquisition just straight up went shopping at their local Mars in order to get all that weaponry. Yeah, I think it is supposed to be like a Scorpek or a Destroyer Lord. But this is a weird duel. Let's go point by point with this. So, immediately goes in, basically slashes him in the leg. Okay, makes sense. Necrons are relatively slow and mechanical or methodical, so okay, maybe he gets an opening strike. Then he comes in like a literal Dark Souls boss and is about to swing at the lower side. And he hits him in the elbow of his weapon, basically, knocking it backwards. Again, these are phase blades. they shouldn't be hitting anything unless the Necron wants it to hit something. It should basically go right through whatever it's striking. So unless, again, you can see he aims for the wrist of the weapon, which makes sense, but he didn't have a lot of mustard on that counter, so that's a bit much. This is a very large machine. I think that should have been a much closer call than it looked like it was. This one as well. That's basically the Talon of Horus coming down to beat his ass. And he basically deflects it with an offhand strike from the backhand of his weapon. That's your weak side, if you're not aware. And granted, it's not a static strike, so it's not too bad, but still, that's a lot of power to be knocking out of your way with just your power sword. And, you know, a little bit much. That, however, is perfectly logical. Smacking that shit aside makes sense. This is also wild, but not impossibly unreasonable. The outer layer, again, the actual eagle chest plate of the Marine, is just metal. So, like, the wings and the skull of the Astartes symbol is just metal. And you can see underneath that, it only digs out, like, a couple of millimeters worth of armor. So that's not unreasonable. He's nowhere close to penetrating the breastplate, because again, it's like 3 inches of steel and ceramite. So 5, 6, maybe even 10 millimeters of armor getting cut out underneath the symbol is not unreasonable for a Flare Lord's claw. However, it makes it even more unreasonable that he was able to deflect a straight-up down slap from that weapon. Yeah, a proper Flare Lord would be nice. Yeah, he's probably not using anything special ammunition-wise. Give it a good stab. Yeah, I love this. I love this. That's a lot of damage to the shield. 2 direct slashes and multiple hits. That would definitely break through whatever refractor is protecting it, and then just begin melting or disintegrating the ceramite, because of course it doesn't really care. Again, the weapons that the Necrons have work against flesh way better than they work against anything else. It's based on density. So it would be a little bit slower for the shield, but still, this is a very good indication of that. I like that. Ah, so what do we have here? I think this is a Space Wolf. Yeah, classic, fairly regular Space Wolf hours. Off the top rope. I don't know why you started with the knife down and then decided to then grab a hold of him instead of just impaling him with your knife. Shoulder joint, good pick. How the hell you knocked him over with 1 bolt round, I have no idea. Brother, what are you doing? They're about to murder you, and your ass is just like, I give up. I surrender. I surrender. I know that's not actually what he's doing, but he kind of looks like he's like, I give up. My hands are in the air. Arrest me. I ain't going back to prison. Bro, that's so freaking disrespectful. First the Space Wolf with the disrespectful, basically kneecapping. He basically just kneecaps him. They do emotes at each other. And then this dude also kneecaps his other knee. And instead of continuing to fire, he just nonchalantly walks away. He's just like, ah, fuck it, my job here is done. 2 kneecaps destroyed. That's the Death Watch, baby. Also, what happened to your whole reanimation thing? Maybe it's decreased because it's trying to fix his arm, but still, bruh, you just got shot in the leg. Walk it off. Oh boy, it's Rowboat Girly Man. This is a real Chaos Temple vibe to it, by the way. I like to imagine that he just shot the other dude in the head, but he probably was double tapping. Pretty good. Pretty good overall. Yeah, that whole thing was just an attempt to give that Black Templar a win. Fair enough. So this is a Age of Sigmar cinematic from a little while ago. I just felt like throwing it in case there were any AOS fans, which I know there aren't, but you know, they might exist. Space Marines.
Sigmar lied.
Now, if you said that in the old world, you would be shot. I love Zangors in the old world. Zangors in the old world are so much cooler than Zangors in 40k. Also, bro, where's your ensorcelled blade? Did you just get like a cheapo one from the dollar store? Zangor weapons are supposed to be on fire, homie. Light that shit up.
Sigmar told us we were chosen. Warriors stolen
Remind me of that in a bit, Tuna, and we will take a look at that.
from death. To be reforged as his weapons.
Just get your skull cracked open by a fucking maul, dude. Yeah, no, a lot of OG fans are big Crimson Fist simps. Not that they're bad or anything, but yeah. Yeah. Well, he lied about it because, well, it's Nagash.
The immortal sons and daughters of the Storm God.
What in the absolute hell? I'm not even gonna question that, Alistair. You can explain that later. I ain't gonna read into that. Oh god, the AOS world looks worse than the old world too, which is wild. Somehow worse. Oh, look, it's the only good faction. We be clanging the bells, da-da-da-da-da-da. We be clanging the bells. Nothing bad can possibly happen. Nothing bad can possibly happen when the bells do be clanging in the distance. And yes, Skaven are peak.
Sound the bells! Sound the bells!
These are the Virgin bells. You can see the difference. The Chad Warpstone bells that sound at the ultimate glory of the Great Horned Rat. The Virgin Sigmar bells that need 7 bells to do the job of 1 Great Skaven bell. Oh, this is definitely not a Space Marine, GW. This is 100% not a Space Marine captain with a power axe. Good job, GW. You've fooled us. Send me the title of that book, because that sounds wild. Also, God, I love 2 things. I love the chieftain with his rat gat. Oh man, the rat gat is wild. The rat pistol is crazy. But also, hold up. The rat ogre with a balefire is super nice. I love it. All of this warpstone though, this yellow stuff, it's a little discolored. See, whenever people... I've argued with people about this before. I was like, hey, I think that the Skaven from Warhammer Fantasy actually would not do too badly in the Warhammer 40k universe. Even if you didn't upgrade their technology all that much, I think the Skaven would actually be a pretty good contender for, like, big fighters. And then you ask why. Well, the answer why is because they fight against shit like these actual just fantasy Space Marines, and they're successful. Also, one of my absolute favorite units in the entirety of the old world is Jezzails. Yeah, they also have nuclear bombs. But yeah, and honestly, Warpstone would 100% fit into 40k. All that it would be is it's an enchanted material. That literally exists. We have various enchanted materials that have demons stuck inside them. It would just look a little bit different, and it wouldn't be as plentiful. God damn. Okay, this is literally just the most, like, modern soldiers versus, like, fantasy flying harpies. Just grab the big musket rifle and bang, bang, bang. Give them the rat gat. Also, has anyone seen the cinematic with that, not Love and War, but it's like a Scottish dude fighting against rats, and they literally come up with this exact contraption. This exact doohickey gets used in that animation. Also, standard Warlock procedure. Can't get anyone to move or animate this, don't have an animal for it, use 4 slaves and gravity. Straight up just demo man energy for real. Yeah, a lot of the factions are cool. They really are. I really do, but I just don't like how, like, death and chaos and such got split up. So that now, what is it? There now it's Ruin, Order, and something else. Ruin, Order, and Life, or whatever. And Chaos is in Ruin, but also in Ruin is the Skaven. I'm like, why are you putting Chaos and Skaven in the same category? No. Get the fuck out of here. They are nowhere close to each other. Chaos in Fantasy is very far removed from Skaven. Yeah, Love, Death, and Robots. Oh, man. Poor bastard. He was having such a good time.
Sigmar lied. He never told us the true cost of this honor.
Also, in classic Space Marine faction, none of them died during that engagement somehow. Chaos, Destruction, Order, and Death. Yeah, that's about right. I don't know, man!
All that will remain of me is an echo, lost to the storm.
Oh.
But until that day...
The idea is that it's not actually them, it's essentially just reanimated armor.
I fight.
Also, nice Axes of Ursun, nerd. He told them that they were going to be immortal, but in reality it's just eternal conflict that sucks their soul out and will drain them to empty armor eventually. That was the immortality that he offered them, not actual immortality. Alright, this is gonna be a good one. I can already tell it.
You are in defiance of the Emperor's law.
No shit.
You cannot hide.
Alright, these dudes are the normal, like, Dreg scum, but they have light machine guns instead of autoguns. I don't know why that is.
You cannot escape. We are...
These are nice, though. Like, even as an LMG, that's a nice LMG.
Prepare for sentencing.
Robo-Dog, Robo-Dog. Process of Sigmar Marines turns people into Necrons, basically. Yeah, kind of, I think. Again, I don't know a ton about Sigmar, but yeah, to my knowledge. Also, this is the Cyber Canine, or the Cyber Hound. Big doggy with metal teeth. It's basically just a canon police canine. Biblically accurate police canine. Also, for all that these dudes are letting off a whole bunch of rounds, I did not see any ammunition, bandoliers, or magazines, or belts hanging from these weapons, so... That's probably why they have their backs to us, so that we can't see that they're not actually firing anything that actually has a magazine. Oh, they're using them like Browning automatic rifles. Cringe. So, the Lex Imperialis is the law of the Imperium, also known as that thing that says that they're allowed to murder you whenever they feel like it. We just saw that in our most recent, adversaries video. This is my dog. He is also the law. Very right. Very right. Also, I love how they're all engaging without cover, and the one dude who runs away decides to post up in a position with actually decent cover. So, that is a Lawgiver Mark III, which is one of them big old shotguns that they have. It's like a 4-gauge or some bullshit like that. They are pump action. Some versions are semi-auto, but it looks like this one's pump. And then you can see the Cyber Mastiff, or in this case, it's kind of the Cyber Saint Bernard or something like that. This one has a lot more modification than normal. Normally, they would still have their ears and the top of their head unarmored, but this one is way, way more mechanical. But they're essentially servitorized, which makes them pretty cool. Also, the armor set is so Judge Dredd. So this would be, in my opinion, what Carapace armor or light Carapace armor qualifies as. You can see the full flak protection down from basically his ankles to his shoulders. Big shoulder plates, fully enclosed, usually helmet, breastplate, all that good stuff. So, yeah, this is definitely like light Carapace, synthetic weave armor, or regular flak, or maybe even just regular Carapace. It's quite nice. And then this dog is heavily armored. Oh yeah, the slick-sided armor is great. And you can see it even better here. Even though generally Arbites have a thicker breastplate than this is more like flak armor. So this is on the lighter side of Arbites armor. It's definitely not the heavier Judge Dredd style stuff that we see Arbites having. This is more regular Arbites. So they're not the Riot Team gear, it's more like the regular Arbites armor. Which is nice. Alright, sorry, one of you recommended something for us to watch. What was that? What was that video you wanted to see next? Because that was the last one that we had in sequence for now. What was the next one that you guys had in mind? I believe, if I read back into the thing... yeah, it's rough. I've been playing it for a while, but I'll be real, I'm not very good at it. Kill Lupercal? Kill Lupercal. What is this? Is it this one?
We are losing, and losing badly. Nothing is true anymore.
Are you having me play Mechanicus, Are you having me play Mechanicus Propaganda, Tuna?
Work with what we have, or we die. I am all Agamemnon. You know me. I am your princeps.
I love this. Okay, the OG version of the Ordinati, or the Moderati for Titans, had these massive, massive helmets with this kind of evil stormtrooper visors, and they look exactly like this. And these are Moderati, but this is just such a cool image. I really, really like this armor. Because it looks like that old-fashioned Void armor that people used to wear.
I would walk with you. Perhaps for the last time.
We could end this war, Orla.
Kill it!
You said it's the one below it? Okay, let me take a look. Is it this one?
We are losing, and...
Nope, that's the trailer. I was also going to look at this one, but I feel like we've watched this one before. Which one was it, Tuna? I feel like, yeah, the one that's a minute long is probably the one that you were talking about. I do also have to watch. I have to watch the Heresy, the Horus Heresy cinematic trailer, I think. No, that's going to be a bunch of clips from different videos, I think. Probably? Yeah, it will be. But it's fine. We can watch this. Real quick. Undo. Can I get rid of the queue? Thank you. Okay. There we go. Fixed.
I never wanted this.
I'm not sure if I believe that.
I never wanted to unleash my legions.
I don't believe that. God damn, his armor is fucking massive. He's such a big man. Holy shit. Yeah, between just everything about Horus is just massive, massive.
Together we banished the ignorance of old night. But you betrayed me. You betrayed us all. You stole power from the gods and lied to your sons. Mankind has only one chance to prosper. If you...
Also, just about that stab, I'd like to say, on top of the fact that somehow Abaddon has this on his arm, but also, that was a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I say that, like, GW feels like they can get away with shit. Because that was the correct thing. That was a Primarch stabbing a dude through the weak spot in his armor, in his lower gut, and having full penetration with a combination power weapon and adamantium blades. Perfect. Absolutely acceptable. I'm not going to complain about that. Stabbing a dude in the chest with a bayonet and it killing them instantly like it's a Hollywood movie, that's what I have a problem with.
will not seize it, then I...
Also, we have once again the tactical Smarties / M&M dispenser and the flavored air dispenser for Horus's armor. Ah, you sent it to me. My goodness. Thank you very much. This is in references? Ah, okay. I'll look that up in a second.
So let it be
54 minutes in? Hold up, brother. This is more than an hour long? I ain't watching all this shit. I'm just letting you know.
from the skies of terror to the galactic.
Hold up. Here was the thing with the bayonet.
So let it be war. From the skies of terror to the galactic rim.
It's a 30-second teaser clip? Alright.
Let the seas boil. Let the stars fall.
Such a good image of the
Though it takes
Luna Wolves at their height.
drop of my blood. I will see.
Yep, see, here it is. That was what I was talking about. Look.
I will see.
See, they both wind up for a shot. Okay, I'll take a look at that. They both wind up for a shot with their bayonets, and this dude hammers it home into the underside of his neck. Perfect weak spot hit. Perfect kill. Has absolute maximum. You can see how far back he pulls for that hit. They're both running. He pulls all the way back basically to a guard by his hip, and then you can see his neck is outstretched and like absolutely hammers it home directly into the underside of his jaw, and it penetrates at the back of the weak spot of his armor. Perfect. That's acceptable. That's how you kill a Marine with a bayonet as another Marine.
Once more. And if I cannot save it from your failure, Father, then let the galaxy
Very, very good cinematic. I am a big fan. Let me look at this thing that my homie Guntuna done sent me. Warhammer, the Horus Heresy, drop site preview. Preview. Alright, looks like this is what you're oh. Is this what you're looking for? Okay, the top one. You said it was at minute 54? Ah, let me see. 54, you said. Ah. Is this the animation you're talking about?
Taking ground fire, my princeps.
Voids to full!
Diverting power. Voids at full radiance. Limited feet from the targeters, my princeps.
I have it.
Ground targets identified. The traitor 16th, my princeps. Sons of Horus.
Traitor bastards.
Composing target solutions.
No need. Autoloaders.
Priming, princeps.
Brace!
Yep. Yep, that's about right. Yeah, so again, for what is essentially a straight up
comes out next week. That's true.
Yeah, for what is essentially a straight up Warlord Titan. Yeah, each of those is probably a 200 something millimeter gun firing armor piercing high explosive. So yeah, that's insane. Yeah, so they're stepping over a bunch of these guys, which first indicates to me that this is probably a holdout position, which also makes sense why they're back-to-back and they're getting fired on from the front instead of from below. They are technically inside of the envelope of the Void Shields here, so if they had armor-piercing weapons, I'd be firing them up. But then again, Fog of War, they may not know whose Titan this actually is.
Taking ground fire, my princeps.
See, okay, that's another thing. Everyone always talks about how Titans are absolutely invulnerable to ground fire. Missile launchers exist. Rocket launchers exist. Artillery exists. There's plenty of things from the ground that can harm or wound a Titan. They are still a mobile weapon, and any damage to a weapon makes it less useful.
Voids to full!
Pushing your energy for voids makes sense. The main thing is you're not necessarily... They always say, like, diverting power to voids. Technically not the correct term. What you should be doing is diverting power, or what you should be saying is you should be diverting power to cycling the voids. Because there's multiple void shields that protect a Warlord Titan. And they're in layers around the vehicle. When one is struck by something of high enough caliber, or it's struck enough times that it goes down, then, like a fuse box, it needs time to reset. Or be reset, often physically, but usually via energy in these more complex machines. So, the idea of diverting power, it's more like diverting energy to try and cycle the voids more quickly, so that you can get them back faster. Also, the inside engine of a Titan, yeah, I could see it looking something like this, an absolutely massive plasma engine with some tech priests hooked into it.
Voids at full radiance.
Looked like maybe some missile strikes. Yeah, that's another thing. Visual and impact targeting with Titans is also a massive pain in the ass. I could not imagine that every single strike or shot that comes out of the Titan is perfectly aimed for that reason. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's not necessarily that it makes the voids overall weaker, it's just that it wears out the upper layers of the void shield and leaves it with less fallbacks. Think of it like having a whole bunch of eggshells. If you tap it a bunch of times with a whole bunch of needles or with a bunch of toothpicks, when you smash it with a hammer, it's going to get through more layers. So the void shield layering, it's really important to think of it as like keeping certain levels or cycles of them up at the same time so that they can engage with and take more punishment without them all failing.
My princeps.
But yeah, damaging to their Auspex is definitely something that you can do against Titans.
I have it.
But again, she's hooked up to the Titan, so she can, quote-unquote, see whatever it sees. The Moderati are just here to do stuff that is too granular or unnecessary, or the other thing is if she's incapacitated. That is a thing. Moderati can actually straight up control the Titan themselves. In some cases, you do still need a pilot to do anything really complicated, but we know that Peter Gearhart is basically entirely comatose, and his Moderati still are able to use his Titan actively. He is still alive, he's just comatose. You can tell that like hazing over of her eyes, it's literally just the Titan getting mad. It's literally just the soul of the Titan getting more and more upset. Also, for saying that you have an issue with the visuals, you sure are able to zoom in on that Space Marine's shoulder pretty well, buddy.
My princeps, sons of Horus.
Also, yeah, way to go, GW, as if we didn't fucking know who the Sons of Horus were.
Traitor bastards.
Composing target solutions.
Okay, composing target solutions, and then she picks...
No need.
No need. Why, I wonder? Why is she picking to not do full targeting and not wanting to do more individual targeting of these specific Marines? I think it's because what they were planning on doing is using secondary weapons or missiles to target them, and she's just like, nope, fuck it, load up my arm weapon.
Autoloaders.
Yep, auto-loading the arm weapon instead of using missiles.
Priming princeps.
Also, servitors everywhere inside of a Titan, as usual. Alright, so let's talk about these in comparison to a servitor. I would say, size-wise, these are probably 200mm shells. Maybe even 280. These are absolutely enormous shells. And you'll see in a minute, it actually doesn't represent it very well on the actual Titan. Yeah, I don't think it's even that they're in a hurry. I think that she's just like, nope, fuck it, these are traitors, I'm about to obliterate them in style. Well, maybe not in style, but just like more brutally.
Brace.
Also, yeah, brace, because the recoil off of these things literally means that after a couple of shots, you'll be shooting up in the fucking air. But yeah, you can... I don't like this as much, because you can see that it doesn't represent the firing very well. So, these drop into position like you would with any chain weapon. And look how small these shots are! That is so disappointing. That's basically a super heavy tank cannon firing off of its arm, and it's got these piddly little autocannon shots. I am disappointed. Massively. Those should be way bigger, and also a tiny bit slower. But yeah, look how small the shell signature is compared to the barrel of the gun. That's ridiculous mismatch there. But either way, the damage is fairly accurate to something like a 200mm shell going off. It's a pretty big radius. But even with that, you can see that she actually starts aiming way below her target, and then she walks it up using the recoil. Which is what you need to do. You need to use directional with this kind of weapon, so that it doesn't just go off on its own. Yeah, absolutely fucking brutal. It is diabolical. Also, I love how you always just say Titans are always AdMech. Eh, there are other types of Titans that do not belong to the AdMech, my friend. We can say other things are there. Yeah, orcs do often shed a single tier because the Imperium just has objectively better firepower than they do in a vast majority of cases. So, what What are we thinking for our last one? Because I got like 7 minutes before I gotta go, because I gotta finish up making the last video and recording it. So I think you mentioned that you wanted to see something about the Imperial Guard, Auxilia, or something like that. Yes, I'm saying Chaos Titans, bud. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that the Titans aren't part of the AdMech. I'm saying Chaos Titans also exist. You said something about Auxilia or Auxilla, an Imperial Guard animation. Do. Was there... I seem to remember you saying something about that. Live action trailer? Huh. That's Guardsman 2018. I don't think you mean that. What are you talking about? Huh. I do not want a reaction. I am a reaction. It's a fan-made? Is it 40K? Do you have an actual title? So I can look this up without looking like an idiot? So what do you say it was? Auxilia made... Ah. Oh, man. Yeah, it probably is gone. Alright, well, if there's nothing else, I do have this. The old-fashioned 1980s Warhammer live action. The Infestation Hive shit. Which... Nah, classic 1980s. Going back in time to the old Imperium.
In a bleak and savage future,
OG.
The enemy lives among us.
OG Magus.
And they're not open.
Also, just what a Gene Stealer used to be. So, yeah, so this is like the OG 1980s, like, live-action Warhammer 40K. This is like the, yeah, it's old stuff. This is peak Gene Stealer performance right here. You may not like it, but this is what peak Gene Stealer used to look like. That's a Magus, by the way. That's what a Magus used to look like, which, honestly, they haven't changed all that much. Also, Hive. Not a bad Hive, TBH. Like, amongst all of the Hives, I would definitely call this a classic Mushroom Hive. Maybe an OG Spire Hive or a Proto Hive. Also, these are Terminators. Like, Space Wolf Terminators. Yeah, it does make your eyes bleed, doesn't it? That's what the Magus sounds like in the 1980s. Listen to how calm his voice is. The human warriors have come. Because we're doing Star Trek on the BBC now, I guess. Power Fist.
But we must not let them jeopardize
the Brood! Look at the Gene Stealer. Look at him. That's what they look like now.
This movement in your area.
Yeah, look how big the Terminator is. Like, they got some actual costume redone to get this finished. It is awesome. I look at this on occasion because there's little snippets of it that you see every now and then. There's some cool shit in here, so like, don't just wait. But look, it's like the classic Indominus pattern helmet. It's very cool. Old-fashioned, old-timey 1980s heat vision. Yep, that's fighting. That's what fighting Gene Stealers is like. 1 minute you're walking down a hallway, the next minute you turn right, fucking bastards coming out of the air vents. That's the bolt round going off somehow. And then another one jumps on your back. Does a weird face. I love this. And I love Gene Stealers, but...
Honor your chapter.
Honor your chapter. This really does feel like it was made by somebody who doesn't understand like Warhammer lore, but they're trying really, really hard. Yeah. Magus wasn't a sexy lady because GW want you to to fantasize about aliens that steal your genes. Yes, before the Magus was a sexy lady. Still, there's still Maguses that aren't women. It's just now we all choose the female. That's a joke. But yeah. Man, it must be a bitch to walk around in the fucking Gene Stealer suit. Also, bolt gun, Magus. Uses his psychic powers, blows up pancakes with mind. That's it, that's his entire psychic powers, just... blows up pancakes with mind. It's called Hive Infestation, if you want to look it up.
The Emperor's mailed fist.
We are the Emperor's mailed fist.
Kill them. Kill them all.
Just fist fighting a Gene Stealer in Blacklight. Love it. Also, this is back when, like, the Broodlord was a thing, and it wasn't always just a Patriarch. Also, classic Power Axe. I think that's supposed to be a Salamander, by the way.
I have met my enemy. It's an abomination.
Oh, look! Another Gene Stealer monster. See, there's another half of this. Blood for the Blood God. TV show intro. Woo! Let's go.
Deep in the nightmare world of
the 41st millennium.
There is only...
I don't like them both. Look at this Umbra pattern bolt gun, and you thought you would never see a live-action Umbra pattern. Here it is. Dark Angel. This really does look like some LARP shit that somebody made. Orc war boss being taken in chains by a bunch of Space Marines. I don't really hate the Ultramarines chant, but I think this is pretty good. I enjoy it. I don't know. The old-timey shit. Also, Dark Angel's, Ash... That's the Inquisitor, I think. It is goofy.
Does he carry the mark of chaos?
That's an orc. That's what an orc looks like. That's what orcs look like. Look at these motherfuckers. Oh, this is a laugh. No, it's an orc, dude. That's not a fallen. That's... Oh, maybe. Is that the case? I don't know. That is the most orc theme song.
Destroy them.
Me and the boys about to delete some CGI monsters from the 80s. Also, this once more I will say, you may not like it, but this is peak orc performance. The orc can't control the bolter. Hilarious. Also, if you were questioning, yes, this is a berserker that they're anointing with oil. Plasma gun. Yeah. But see, LARP Space Marine armor was made at a time where things were completely normal. Yeah. That's a World Eater, alright. To be entirely honest, they did take this out of, like, the old White Dwarf artwork, so you can understand why it looks really janky and messy, because that was just the art style at the time. It's a different era, guys. But also, this is a fucking great World Eater. Like, I'm not gonna lie, with all the, like, rituals and putting blood and oil on his armor, fucking great World Eater. Get ready for the calmest blood for the Blood God you'll ever hear in your life.
Blood for the Blood God.
He doesn't sound like he has his heart in it. Let's listen to that one more time.
Blood for the Blood God.
That's it. That was all. That's all that he could muster. He just did not come to play today.
Blood for the Blood God.
That's it. That's all the blood for the Blood God that we get. Just that pathetic. And again, this is official Games Workshop content. This is real. Like, this is not a LARP. This is not someone's little pet project. This is fucking real. and yes, I highly recommend anyone who wants go take a look at this. I have no idea how official it is. Yeah, man, Karn is tired. He's tired of this shit. Oh, man, that's a good one. Sorry, Sparty, but you're getting on at the last part of our sign-off. We gotta get going. It's been a good, solid 2 hours. But unless there's anything else that you guys want me to review really bad, or any questions that you have, I have plenty of time for Q&A, and I know I've released about, like, I don't know, 12 videos since I last did a stream where I could talk to people, so any Q&A questions that you think the community has, I'm going to stick on for a few minutes so you guys can ask questions, or if there's anything that you wanted to see specifically, animations, things with the current lore you want my opinion on, anything of that nature. I know, I'm sorry, I posted as many reminders as I possibly could. I put in a bunch of stuff, I put it on YouTube, I let everyone know on the server, so don't worry, buddy, when it goes up in a few minutes, you'll be able to watch the whole thing, so feel free, and then you can always post or comment whatever the hell you want. I don't expect people to watch the streams, it's kind of a live thing. Yes, thank you, Guntuna, your classic reliance upon AdMech propaganda is much appreciated. Thank you. But yeah, don't worry. This will be updated, buddy. So if nobody has any questions, I will wish you all a lovely good night.